The internal clock, a deregulation of your circadian rhythms. The word circadian was coined by scientists in the 1950s from Latin word circa, approximately, and diem, day, a rhythm that operates on a cycle of about 24 hours. Predicting when the sunrise allows the brain to release wake-up chemicals such as orexin, dopamine, and norepinephrine, and to suppress the androgynous chemicals such as melatonin, adenosine, and GABA. They might make us want to roll over and go back to sleep. The inner clock lets us wake up in the morning, refreshed and ready to go. Biological clocks evolved every, I'm sorry, Biological clocks evolved early in evolutionary history when most cells were light sensitive. Okay, activity and synchronized with the light-dark cycles. The clocks are wired into genes. Plants use photosensitive intercellular clocks to detect the length of days. Biological clocks help plants prepare for sunrise by raising their leaves, tilting them toward the sun, and preparing their internal factories to perform photosynthesis, converting sunlight into nutrients. So much so that when tissue from biological clocks of young animals has been transplanted into older animals, and the older animals live longer. In mammals, circadian rhythms rely on these separate processes. An input system that takes information from the environment, consisting of cues such as light-dark cycles and food consumption that are received via peripheral oscillators. A central master oscillator, a clock, that keeps a track of time of input events and can generate consistent rhythm signal. To regulate them, we evolved a master clock. In humans, this is located within the hypothalamus in a structure called a suprachiasmatic nucleus, or SEN. The developmental science approach seeks to understand the interaction between genes, culture, and opportunity. Biological clocks are a fascinating example of this. They function by taking input from the environment, primarily light, but also your eating schedule and your own activity cycle, which are influenced by culture. Light, whether it arrives from the rising sun or the little blue light on your cell phone charger, can turn particular genes on and off, changing the time of when they produce and proteins that influence the biological clock and our circadian rhythms. Daylight or lack of it can speed up or slow down the circadian rhythms. All of these interacts with your own aging process in a variety of ways. There's just one example. Light and blue light, in particular, is necessary to program the biological clock. Cataracts, which accompany aging, are yellow and so they tend to block out blue light. Consequently, cataracts can restrict the amount of blue light that reaches the retina and diminish important neurological signaling to the pineal gland and the SEN. In some cases, cataract surgery has restored sleep quality to older adults by allowing more blue light in during the day and thus restoring a healthy melatonin release schedule. But blue light near bedtime, such as from a cell phone, alarm clock, or a computer, can stimulate the pineal gland and make it more difficult to fall asleep. When you eat, how much you exercise, and how much you sleep are important. But in the past few years, neuroscientists and chronobiologists, people who study biological clocks, have come to understand that when you eat, when you exercise, and when you sleep may be just as important. This is particularly true of all the adults. The gastrointestinal tract has a proper circadian clock of its own and is also home to billions of microbiota, also called the microbiome. Everyone's microbiome is unique, and the organisms that make it up have their own clocks. Research on the microbiome is still in its infancy, but early evidence points to the possibility that what and when you eat can influence the microbiomic clock, the circadian rhythms of your microbiota, and further that your microbiome can send information up to the master clock in your SCN to influence its timing. In addition, the SCN suprachiasmatic nucleus in the hypothalamus can regulate the microbiome through triggering production of cyclin, gluco, glucocorticoids, insulin, and other timing and rhythmic altering substances. As you probably know, people differ in terms of time of day when they're most fresh and alert. In popular parlance, I'm early bird, my wife is night owl. We have a different chronotypes. Different chronotypes, they have a genetic basis, but they also interact with environment and experience. Years of staying up late, consistently, and exposure to blue light beyond the sundown can cause changes in gene expression that shift to your chronotype at the genetic level. But this doesn't always happen. A great many shift workers live in a conflict with their inherent chronotype, and this is responsible for accidents, depression, and the loss of productivity. Dark solid line core body temperature starts rising from nighttime, low of approximately 36.7 Celsius about 3 hours before waking up, reaches in 37.2 Celsius by 9 a.m., keeps rising slowly at a peak of 37.4 Celsius at about 8 p.m., and then falling to reach an initial level of 36.5 Celsius at 4 a.m. Dark dashed line circadian rhythm of melatonin. Gray solid line temporal regulation of the portogen. Gray dashed line plasma dopamine levels throughout the 24-hour period. There can be marked individual variation in the aptitude and extent of each waveform. The invention of bright, artificial lights more than a century ago has caused a problem that humankind had never experienced before, the possibility of tricking the ASEAN into thinking it's a daytime when it's not, and the possibility of allowing our circadian rhythms to become fashioned to our own will. Unfortunately, much of the time, all the lights do is disrupt our million-year-old cycles, and that can have serious health consequences. And teenagers experiencing a particular shift in their sleep schedules for reasons we don't fully understand, but are related to the sudden influx of pubertal hormones. Okay, teenagers experience particular shift in their sleep schedule for reasons we don't fully understand but are related to the sudden influx in pubertal hormones. Those workers who were early birds versus night owls and gave the different shifts so that their work schedule aligned with their internal clock. The aging clock, as we age, the signaling and the form of SCN decrease. Part of this signaling deficit is due to loss or degradation of the nerve system and myelin sheath, and part due to an overall age-related depletion of neurochemicals and hormones. This is partly why older adults can have trouble getting to sleep and wake up at 5 in the morning and want their dinner at 4:30 in the afternoon. Lose the master clock. Accounts for changes in sleep, waking, and eating cycles. Some evidence indicates that the problem is in fact with integrity of neurons in the SCN cell. Transplanting young tissue into SCN of hamsters improves the clock synchrony of aging hamsters and increase their lifespan. This suggests that good circadian rhythm may be related to longevity. We're a long way off from being able to do such a transplant in humans, but the results of these experiments help us to understand the vulnerabilities uh, of the aging clock and offer directions or longevity increasing research. Phrase advance as they age, people are more likely to become morning types as they age. That's true, morning type. Degradation of vasopressin signaling is responsible for increased fragmentation of a sleep-wake activity cycle and for disruption of core body temperature rhythms, and more frequent urination all lead to poor sleep quality and quantity. Okay. Resulting in increasing daytime drowsiness. The functioning of biological clock is disrupted to an even greater degree in dementia. Post-mortem study of dementia patients brain show sharp degradation of the hypothalamus SCN. This affects more than just eating and sleeping. There are time of day effects for aloneness and the performance that become sharply emphasized when we age. Adults at the age of 60 or so begin to show performance differences on the range of neuro psychological tests, memory, problem solving, spatial intelligence, reasoning, fine motor coordination, and athletic performance. Test them in the morning, they're normal. Test them in the middle to late afternoon, they show reduced performance. The time point is variable. It could be age 50, 60, 70, or 80 depending on the interaction of genes, culture, and environment. Disrupted circadian rhythms without a clear, identifiable external cause or early warning sign of Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, and Huntington's disease, chronic inflammation, and cancers. Repetitive disturbances of the circadian rhythm, particularly from frequent time zone shifts and irregular exposure to light, have now been implicated in in a variety of diseases, including metabolic syndrome, immune deficiencies, bone and muscle weaknesses, cardiovascular disease, cancer, and the shortened lifespan. Sundra's syndrome. One of the most well-known functions of biological clock is to control the release of melatonin to promote sleep. Your body makes less melatonin. When we are young, the biological clock is more flexible, malleable, and it can react to environmental changes quickly. As we get older, resetting the biological clock can take longer, much longer. Phase advances, age shift to waking up earlier and going to bed earlier than usual are more difficult for older adults to recover from. Phase deletion show no difference between older and younger adults. Okay, the cold weather can also cause you to overeat. Sleep hygiene. If you're sleep deprived, which refers to not just to the amount of sleep you've gotten over the past few years, but also to the quality of that sleep, you will tend to notice in a post-lunch dip more, and you will notice it more. You notice it more as you age. Sleep hygiene involves avoiding bright lights before bed, sleeping in a completely dark room, get blackout curtains if you need to, and going to bed and waking at the same time every day. Now that we know about these circadian rhythms, this makes sense. Your biological clock expects you to go to sleep at a certain point within the 24-hour cycle. It adjusts your core body temperature, slows digestion, releases melatonin, reprocesses dopamine, and oversees dozens of other regulations. If you go to sleep earlier or later than usual, these cycles are a little out of sync with the fact that you are sleeping. Sleep quality is impaired. Diet is important too. Eating within 2 hours of bedtime can decouple the central circadian rhythms from those in the liver, stomach, and intestine. What you eat can also be a factor. Alcohol is known to disrupt a sleep cycle and circadian rhythms, and the high-fat diets tend to advance the clock. A practical implication of this is that if you need to stay up late, eat fatty foods like those pictured in virtually every late-night TV commercials. Light therapy and melatonin treatments are the most effective means of resetting the circadian clock, especially in the East. They are also effective if in the people with Alzheimer's related or mild cognitive impairment. It's possible that these treatments may also prevent or delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease itself. Melatonin treatment, cognitive performance improved, and agitated behavior was reduced. You may have heard of a seasonal affective disorder, SAD, which causes mood and concentration disturbance and is triggered by a shorter, greater days of winter. Melatonin levels tend to rise above 14 hours after waking up. If you get 8 hours in sleep every night and wake up at 6 a.m., that means your melatonin levels will naturally rise around 8 p.m. and you will start to get sleepy and go to bed 2 hours and after that, around 10 p.m., if it takes about an hour for a melatonin pill to be absorbed into your bloodstream, that means only taking one about 3 hours before bedtime. The next most effective treatment after light therapy and melatonin is moderate late afternoon or early evening exercise, like going outside for a walk. The combination of all three is the best. Caffeine. Caffeine is one of the most widely consumed mind-alerting substances in the world. For many people, it enhances wakefulness, alertness, and focus, and can assist in establishing or changing circadian rhythms, particularly when crossing time zones. Peak performance. At the beginning of the book, I introduced the concept of health span versus disease span. The amount of time you're able to avoid declining health and live a fully productive, self-sufficient life. There is a parallel concept called productive span that can apply not just to the arc of your life, but also the arc of any single day. There are times of day when you are at your best and other times when you are not. The most obvious explanation for this is that there are individual differences among athletes and the differences in the demands of various sports. I've touched on the ways in which the effectiveness of eating, exercise, and sleep in maintaining optimal health and vigor independent on our body's natural rhythms. You can see that they are connected through circadian rhythms. Their decoupling can cause problems, especially in old age, when our bodies are less resilient. In the next three chapters, I will double-click on these three key components of our daily lives and reveal more about what we know about optimizing and tweaking them to give us a maximum benefit. Okay.